What's up guys, it's Areeb here, and today I want to have a quick chat about what's going on with crypto and especially Monero and the privacy coins. For those who don't know Monero, it's been around for a very long time. I've always been a big fan of it in terms of the privacy. There's other competing coins that have been similar. For example, I always called it the little cousin Bytecoin. Bytecoin's kind of fallen off over the years, but it's very similar to Monero. There's also been kind of a competitor called ZCash. I've never been a fan of it. People who I really respect, like Edward Snowden, have recommended it. I personally, unfortunately, disagree. ZCash is not really private. I mean, it could be, but it's not privacy by default. And in fact, probably the majority, if you look at the stats here, are actually unshielded and not private at all. And so why is that important? Well, I mean, that's the whole reason why we have cash transactions, right? I know a lot of governments try to equate anything done in crypto as maybe being nefarious, and it could be, right? But just like with cash, right? If you go and buy a jug of milk at the store for $20 in cash, it doesn't mean you're being bad. If you give your friend or close loved one $100 cash or something for their birthday, doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. That's a gift. You're allowed to do that. But I do get it. Banks do have certain regulations. But I think what's happened lately, though, if you look at this CARF, this new draconian European legislation, it's doing a bunch of things, especially the UK. Millionaires are leaving the UK en masse, and as many people are leaving the West for various reasons, financial reasons, reasons of freedom. And I think this is one of them. I'm not saying I disagree with having AML and different things for anti-terrorist financing. Every country has it, every bank has it, right? That's pretty standard. But what's happening here, if you look, it's fairly overreaching. And I think that a lot of people, that are wealthy, looking what's gone down over the years, whether it's what's happening in Russia, whether what's happening in the United States, and all these different things going on in the world, we could talk about it for days. But, what it signals to, people like us is that we're not safe, right? No one is safe. These laws are changing and we understand the reason for them. And I can say I have enough experience in finance, in the sense of seeing how banks operate, that this becomes a problem, right? It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, but it just means more red tape. It means that kind of maybe like the United States, this has been a problem for Canadians. Say that you took $1,000 cash or something to cross the border and go shopping. If the highway patrol pulls you over and you cannot immediately prove that that cash is so-called legitimate, they'll just seize it as the proceeds of crime. You might have just taken it out from your bank here in Canada. It's completely legitimate, but you couldn't prove it properly. And this is exactly what happens when you have these different laws. And it looks like, I'm not saying for sure, we can't say for sure, but I think people don't want to take a chance with this CARF, with this regulation. Sure, maybe you couldn't give the right answers or give the right proof. Maybe you got birthday money from your aunt, right? It's the same idea with the crypto. Maybe you cannot prove to the standard they want, and therefore they can seize it. I think that is really the fear. And so why am I connecting this? I think that's what's pumping Monero, right? We have all this instability in the world. We see precious metals going on new all-time highs. Bitcoin's not really doing that just yet. But it's interesting, even if the market has been sliding or sideways, we have seen ZCash, and then it rose and fall. I think the reason is because some of the people using, they realize that ZCash is not inherently private. Then they realize that Monero is. So Monero started pumping very hard in the last few days. And so I think it's exactly because of this reason, because of the Europeans, right? Because of instability in the world, people want to know that their money will be safe. And the other reason for this as well is sanctions. Now, I'm not saying that someone should try to avoid sanctions, right? That's completely wrong. But what I'm saying is that when there's no privacy at all, don't you worry. What if you get caught up in this, right? And I've talked about this before. For example, if you sell your bike on Craigslist, someone gives you $100, and if that person was a drug dealer, does that mean you're a bad person? No, you had no idea, right? Just like the grocery store, they're accepting $100. They don't know that person has received that money from the proceeds of the crime. Is the grocery store now, part of this drug cartel because that happened? I mean, there's only so much people can do. So that's what I'm saying. It's unreasonable. And I think this is the concern here. So why am I going back to the whole sanctioning thing, or you could be in trouble? Well, the same thing in crypto. So if a wallet that was used by someone who was a criminal, if it paid you, does that make you a criminal? Well, maybe it does under that legislation. If they're going to use that, what if they say that makes you liable, and suddenly now your crypto wallet is essentially blacklisted? Or even worse, if it's on an exchange, they try and seize those funds for so-called investigation. So what I'm getting at here, I don't have any objection to regulation and to these laws that are trying to prevent money laundering and illegal activities and terrorism, all this other stuff which is very standard with banks, but this seems to go a bit farther. So those are my thoughts, and I think this is what's driving the Monero craze right now. People just don't trust the system. They're seeing what's happening, for example, with the EU trying to seize Russian funds, right? There's all these things that are not supposed to happen in these so-called free countries and free economies, and people are voting with their feet and voting for the wallets. And you can see this mass exodus from the EU, from Western countries. And again, still playing into that here, we definitely have seen that ourselves, right? We see companies, we see individuals coming to us saying, help us with our cybersecurity, whether on a personal level, whether it's, help our company here. We're not feeling very confident that our data and company is going to be able to operate. I guess it just, the next transaction you receive in Europe, people wonder, right? Can they shut you down? Right? You're a legitimate company, but you got one maybe suspicious transaction. Are they going to freeze all of your crypto? Are they going to freeze your bank accounts? And this kind of stuff can and does happen. And not even talking about political issues, right? You could be target politically. If maybe the EU got upset, maybe you sold a car or something to China, or maybe to Russia or something like that, right? Maybe you didn't even know it, but you could be putting everything at risk at the next transaction. And so going back to it again, this is the cool thing about Monero, right? Monero is totally private, and again, that's going to keep pumping it. They can try and ban Monero, but what I'm actually seeing now, if you look at the regulation, a lot of the crypto exchanges is very fascinating. A lot of them pretty much ban a lot of Westerners from joining, right? Because they don't want to get caught up in all these regulations. Again, it doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong, but regulation, what it means, I mean, in terms of AML, all this extra stuff, I mean, most exchanges already have this. But this CARF looks like it takes it to the next level. They're just extra reporting, extra red tape, and these exchanges are saying we'd rather not have people from these jurisdictions because it's just probably not worth the hassle. And again, this is what really scares me about these regulations, because I think we're going to keep seeing this. Again, it's going to mean us in the West, we're not going to have access to a lot of things. It's starting out right now on the financial side. A lot of crypto exchanges don't want us. What else is going to be next? Right? Westerners are almost being sanctioned, you could say, right? Not officially, but effectively. And so once again, that's why a lot of people are ready to move, right? They're moving out to the United Arab Emirates, moving to Singapore, they're moving anywhere which doesn't have these regulations where they feel they're going to be safe. And so whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, maybe it's time for all of us to think, can Monero help us in part of that strategy? Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts? It's been Areeb here. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.